So Lucky Jack. Lealden has continued since we last saw him. He was the left hand of the divine, a very important role in Thetis, at least in the Andrastian religion. For the people who are watching who need a refresher, how would you describe your role as the left hand of the divine?
What they do is they help either influence or keep an eye on certain events and groups of individuals that the Chantry do not want to be officially associated with having any involvement in. Kind of a gentle nudge in this direction, or taking care of someone in a discreet manner if they're proving to be like a threat, or could be a negative influence on the Chantry, but just something where it keeps the Chantry's right hand and their hands proverbially clean of a matter, whereas the left hand kind of is tasked with that.
So, Lealden, you are currently in Orlais.
Okay.
And Orlais is a grand city. However, because the city is currently in the diminished air region, it is constantly hit with storms, very windy conditions. A lot of things just in that entire region as a whole has a tendency to be in constant repair because things are getting destroyed or damaged by the storms, and people fix them and then they just get damaged again. And today in particular is a very I'd say particularly rainy, thunderstormy day. The wind has picked up quite a bit. Your faithful companion, Alexandra, a Mabari hound, who has pretty much has been your partner in crime over the last several years, she's starting to, get a little bit in her older, seasoned years, but she's still pretty darn good in a fight regardless, and has a very good nose for things, amongst other things, although during stormy weather like this, it's very challenging for her to sniff out anything. And I'm gonna say that she's like looking up at the storm, and she's sort of like growling a little bit. The lightning kind of frightens her slightly.
Oh.
So.
Well, I mean, I absolutely I would like. I don't want to have a sad dog. No one wants that. I would comfort her. I would try and bring Alexandra a little bit closer to me, closer to any fire we had going, if we had some sort of warmth during that.
Okay. Alexander will snuggle closer to you. He'll probably give your face a good lick as some of the warm drool oozes down off of your face. And then, out from nowhere, you see in the distance the clouds start to part, and the sun starts to peek through, and the clouds, almost like parting of the Red Sea, just kind of split open, and there's this big shining aura, and it's a really interesting phenomenon because it's like this parting just kind of continues moving closer and closer and closer to the city. And everybody knows that this is because Cedric is back in town. And when Cedric comes back in town, the heavens literally open up and make way for him. Unless he turns off his bracer. But for right now, he's keeping it on for necessity because Lealden, as it turns out, the divine herself has sent you on a mission. Hopefully it's not a particularly challenging mission, but it is a mission that has brought a lot of concern to the Chantry. You see, there have been cases of high Chantry priests, who have gone missing over the last month or so. And nobody has seen, there hasn't been any witnesses, nobody has seemed to realize why these priests are missing. Many of them were last seen in the necropolis of Navarra. And so the Divine has also asked Cedric Ashwood to accompany you to Navarra to join on this mission. Eventually, the sun will start shining and bathing your wet face, both from the rain as well as from Alexandra. And I will say that eventually you will become face to face with Cedric Ashwood.
I would not have like Leoden like exude any like hostility. He would stand up to greet Cedric. He would not. He's not. Definitely not in the position of bearing ill will towards him, especially not on a mission like this. I would say maybe at this moment he's maybe regarding the current circumstances with maybe slight annoyance more than anything else, in the sense of here he is, a man who his entire life and or career at the moment is built around subtlety and low profiles, and yet here is parting of the clouds and the heavens above them immediately. But
Penta'Viv Gardens are known for their theatrics. And of course we know Cedric's the most theatric of them all. It's like, I should also note one more thing, Lucky Jack, is that there are rumors going around that Cedric is one of the biggest candidates for becoming the next Knight Vigilant. Knight Vigilant being the top Templar of all the Templars. In addition to that, there's also other rumors that the Divine is considering Cedric to also become the right hand of the Divine, which means that you might have suspicions as to maybe part of the reason why she invited Cedric on this mission is just to see how the two of you mesh. The left hand and the right hand candidate might mesh.
all right.
So,
Okay.
go ahead.
Cedric jumps out and's like, ha! No, just kidding. Is there like a specific title that the right hand, or is it just like the right hand? Or
The left-handed Divine.
Yeah, sorry.
I think that they called Liliana Nightingale. So I think she might have had. I think the left hand might have a code name of some sort. I don't know if
I'll go,
Lucky Jack has thought of a code name, but
just off the top of my head, I could go with Nighthound.
I like Nighthound. I like that. Alexander likes that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cedric would approach and give a deep, respectful bow. Say, it's good to see you again, Leoden, or Nighthound. I guess we're on official business.
Leoden would like raise up his hand. He's trying to like he doesn't. Bows aren't really necessary. No worries or something like that. And just manner of work is this. Leoden is fine. No need for code names just now when it's just us here. Looking up.
Right on cue, you guys hear, at least for Leoden especially, the familiar sound of propellers overhead as the large vessel known as the Tempest Dream comes into view. The vessel is, again, one of the most... It is the original known airship, and has actually got a bit of an upgrade since last you've seen it. It's shinier, sleeker. It seems to have gotten a little bit of an expansion as well in parts of the deck and stuff of that nature. Your sister, Captain Maelstrom, is still the captain of the ship, and she's been doing very well for herself, especially helping with the trade amongst Ferelden. Trade being very important nowadays thanks to all of the elemental regions, because certain people need food, certain people need water, certain people need such and such.
Mm-hmm.
The economy is something that is in a huge has been on thin ice, but thanks to Cogs's airships, which are mostly now used for, again, trade purposes, they have managed to keep things from completely imploding on itself. But anyway, the airship arrives, and they throw down this rope ladder for the two of you gentlemen to climb. And they will also lower, I don't know what it's called, but the thing that you use to like load onto a ship so that Alexandra can ride onto it.
Okay, like a cargo, like hold.
Yeah, a cargo, I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
But you can imagine something like that.
Alrighty, no worries. Alright.
You guys have done this several times.
Oh yeah. Alexander by now is like immediately he recognizes the lift. He just gets all comfortable on and like I start like grabbing onto the ladder, start climbing my way up.
Yeah, Cedric will as well, a little bit more hesitantly, but he'll still climb.
Oh, I was just as I'm like climbing, I'm like, now's not the time you're gonna just start telling me you're afraid of heights now, right?
I'm just not looking down.
Okay. Lealden, as you reach the top, a large stone hand holds out for you.
Lealden would gladly grab onto part of the hand and
welcome back, my friend. And you can see Vicious Vic, who is a golem. And he's got little cracks of magma. It hasn't flared up, but you know that as necessary, little cracks start to like flare up and ooze out molten rock, which is really cool to see and very deadly. But for right now, since you're friends, he's keeping it at bay, and he's sort of says, "Welcome back to the Tempest Dream."
Good to be back, Vic. I hope that the strong winds have not been dealing you any harm.
Strong winds? It's gonna take more than strong winds to topple this guy, he says with a laugh.
I appreciate the help under such short notice. We've been investigating this for the past couple days, and it's only been now that we've been gaining such strong leads towards this place.
Well, don't know much about that, but I'm sure all of you smart people can worry about that for me.
Oh, right. I guess I should have. Oh, yeah. I probably should have asked. Like, is the crew of the Tempest Dream even aware of what we're doing, or they just know they're just giving us a ride?
I think your sister just feels like you need a ride, as sisters do.
Fair.
Oh, and looks like the pretty boy has graced us at last, he says as he sees Cedric come up. Cedric, you get yourself onto the ship. I don't remember. I feel like you've been on this ship once before.
Yeah. Well, twice.
You, Cedric, have been on this ship once before. And the second time you're on the ship again, it feels eerily more familiar than it should be. I think you know why, but you have sort of a love-hate relationship with this ship.
Yeah. Vic, is it right?
That's my name. Penta'Viv, Guardian of Air.
Oh, it's just Cedric.
All right, Cedric, it is.
I'm not one for titles.
Hey, I 100% get that. No judgment here. And from behind him, you hear a voice call out, "Brother, so good to see you." Here's Captain Maelstrom arrives.
As it is to see you once again, sister. I take it things have gone well?
Things have been gone very well. Where is your hound? Oh, there she is. And Alexandra bounds over and starts, panting. And she sort of chuckles a little bit, and she holds out what looks like to be a biscuit of some sort that she always seems to have whenever you guys visit. She throws it towards Alexandra, and she chomps at it immediately. As soon as the captain of the ship sees Cedric, she places a hand on her shoulder, and then she gives you a bow. Penta'Viv, Guardian of Air, welcome to the Tempest Dream.
Please, Captain. Especially while we're on the ship, it's just Cedric, and he'll return the bow.
As you wish, Cedric. I hear that we are setting course to Navarra.
Yes, that is correct. We must make it there with great haste.
Excellent, she says. If you're hungry, I'm sure Archer will be able to fix you up something along the way. And I think the flight hopefully will be as smooth as possible, especially if you have anything to say about it, Cedric, she says, turning to you.
I pray to the Maker. It is.
She will nod, and the ship will start to set sail, I guess. The Tempest Dream has become a lot faster than its predecessor, so you will actually be able to make your way to Navarra in record time. Along the way, I'm going to say that maybe Lealden will find himself on the deck of the ship, probably taking in the clean air as you're passing by. Clean air thanks to a certain guardian on the ship right now. And I think that your sister will sort of approach you, and she'll start chatting you up and say, "So I received a letter from Delwyn the other day. Apparently Gwenaël has been made recently Grand Enchanter. Grand Enchanter, out of character, is the highest of the mages of the Circle of Magi, the highest of highs. It seems like you and your friends have managed to find themselves into very high places around Thedas."
I was incredibly proud to have heard about that, and I can think of no other who deserves it more than he. As for myself, it just sometimes just life seems to work in these funny ways.
Works out very well for me. You're at a great advantage if you find yourselves being friends with people in high places.
I could almost find it hilarious to think that that once the great sky pirate Maelstrom would now become one of the greatest trade ships in the region.
She says, "Well, that is true. And let me just also point out that long before all of you became people of high places, I have been a woman of high places for years prior," she says, pointing to the airship itself.
Gazing down and around them, letting out a little soft chuckle under his breath.
When was the last time you actually saw Delwyn and Gwenaël?
His look kind of narrows down as he remembers. Gosh, it's honestly, it's been. Oh, welcome. And he was saying, "Gosh, it's actually been too long since I've last seen them. Unfortunately, whereas most people, whereas my friends' high positions have allowed them some level of public notoriety, public socialization, it's unfortunately led to me having to once again take the more discreet paths."
And she will then say, "How about Maximilian?"
I don't know if the Grand King would be able to tear himself away from all of his heavy responsibility. I wouldn't want to bother him with such trivial. I know there's a word that means what I want to say without sounding silly, but he's been doing magnificently since I've heard from him.
That's surprising, she says. I know the two of you are very close. You had a bit of a bromance back in the day, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, it was... Gosh. So, well, again, I do wish to pay him more visits if I'm able to. Just works sort of makes it a little challenging for me to be seen around him at the moment.
She will then look towards Cedric's direction. I'm going to say Cedric's on the deck, but what is he doing on the deck at the moment, Cedric?
I think he would just be kind of like going through his pack once again, making sure everything was specifically ordered in a certain way. Nothing like kind of shuffled out of place or anything, but he's in the middle of the deck. He doesn't want to be near one of the sides.
All right. You're going to be looking through your pack, and you'll start hearing the sound of sniffing around you.
Oh, hello. Are you... I'm assuming you're looking for a treat.
The Mabari hound eyes you up and down, and then you sense its eyes landing right onto your halberd. Ruff, ruff. She barks at your halberd.
I don't know. You definitely don't know how to use a halberd.
I would have heard this by now, wouldn't I?
Sure.
I would quickly excuse myself from Maelstrom just for the moment, and then head lower down to the deck. Alexandra, what is it? Noticing Alexandra's intent. Like,
You notice that Alexandra is right now observing Cedric, and she seems to be very interested in Cedric's halberd. It's been a while, but you do know that one of Alexandra's favorite games to play is fetch.
she Alexandra thinks that your halberd is a stick.
Oh, I see. I don't know if it's safe for me to throw a halberd.
I don't think it would be either. Worst case scenario, it would fall off the ship and... No. You wouldn't happen to have anything else smaller on hand, would you?
I just have some dried meats, and
At that moment, Leoden would probably cut him off. Like, thank you, it's very good for the cause. Takes the meat, kind of leads Alexandra a little bit farther away, just kind of keep her calm.
Okay, you will be able to rescue Cedric from the big bad Mabari hound, and shortly after. You will hear Vicious Vic call out, "Oi! Navarra's coming up! I think I can see the necropolis from here, actually." And lo and behold, you will see the grand city of Navarra, very goth in nature, very, very different from Orlais. Mm-hmm. And eventually, you guys will make your way down to the necropolis area, where several Mortalitasi priests are gathered to greet you, in addition to another woman. So, for those of you who remember from Dragon Age Season 2, the previous King Marcus, grew very ill and ended up dying, which means that since King Marcus didn't have any successors, it was pretty much open season on his throne. And so there was a lot of back and forth in order to determine who came out on top. It was actually got pretty nasty, got pretty politically nasty over the years to determine who is going to take Marcus's place. But one woman who managed to rise to the top is a woman known as Antonia. For those of you who who have read the most recently released book, Tevinter Nights, may recognize Antonia, but she is now Queen of Navarra. I'm gonna say for Cedric that your opinion of Antonia is still forming. I wouldn't call her, like, ruthless, but I wouldn't call her benevolent either. She's kind of neutrally. And you can't help feel that when you are in her presence, you just feel this cold chill. There's like this cold chill that you kind of feel like, almost like, it's kind of uncomfortable. But at the same time, makes you feel more so like you are in the presence of an authoritative figure. And so when you and Leildin land and come before her, she will give you a very polite bow, and she will say, "Welcome, Left-Hand of the Divine, and Penta'Viv Guardian of Air. Welcome to the Necropolis here in Navarra."
Cedric will bow deeply once again, and in Navaran, because I think he speaks Navaran,
He does.
he will return like well wishes. Say it is an honor to be here, and it is an honor for you to meet us.
She'll smile, and she will respond back to you in Navaran. She says, "I'm happy to hear that you have not lost some of your Navaran roots."
Again in Navaran, he'll say, I try to keep the heritage alive even while I'm preoccupied in Orlais. And as he kind of says Orlais, he's like,
I do know a lot about your background, Mr. Ashwood. I hope that under the circumstances you are prepared to go down to the necropolis. I know that you've had a very sordid past with that locale.
Indeed I am.
She will smile, and then she will turn to Leildin, and I think right away, Leildin, she gives you that look. It's not impolite, but it's sort of that look where when people see you, you get the feeling that you're not quite what they expected when they see you, you being a Vashoth.
Right.
Who is yes. And so she sort of looks at you, and she's got these very long fingers that, she's sort of brushing a little bit on her chin. And she looks you up and down, sizing you up, and she says, "I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting you face to face, Left Hand of the Divine."
Quickly, taking note of that little remark, Leildin would also, like, of course, return the bow when they had first approached, and said, "It is a great honor to be meeting with you, Queen."
How long have you been the Left Hand of the Divine? Just out of curiosity.
For many years at this moment.
And I don't think that your travels have brought you into Navarra very much, has it?
Perhaps, if they did, then perhaps my ability to have gone unnoticed up until this point speaks to my abilities as the left hand.
Fair enough. Well then, I will leave you all to it. I just wanted to make sure that you were well welcomed into the city when you arrived. This is a issue of great concern for all of us, and I hope that the best of the best might be able to crack down on what exactly is happening here.
Absolutely. We will accomplish what we set out to do with great haste.
She will nod, and she will snap her fingers at her attendant. "Come along, Manfred," who will then follow as she sort of glides off. And as soon as she leaves your presence, I'm going to say that chill starts to warm up a little bit and ease. the Mortalitasi will then guide you guys down to the necropolis. So the necropolis is very intricate. It's very labyrinth-like, and you can definitely smell the musty smell of, they preserve a lot of the bodies down here. Unlike the traditional Andrastian religions that you're accustomed to, you always burn the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why you burn the dead is because not only for religious rites, but also it's very practical because it prevents the dead from being possessed.
Right.
The Navaran belief is that when somebody dies, then that means that a soul or your spirit leaves the body and enters into the Fade. And because of that balance of matter or spirit, whatever you say, a spirit comes out from the Fade and tries to possess the dead body. And so it's sort of like an even trade. And so you remember this, and one of the queen's attendants is this skeletal looking figure. Didn't speak the entire time, but I think part of the chill of it is that there was something about this particular attendant of Queen Navarra's that you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but his eyes were a little sunken, a little empty, and he sort of like had a little bit of a slight shuffle to his walk when he was leaving with her.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of gave you a little bit of an eeriness to it. I don't know if this is something you're going to mention to Cedric, because this is probably something he's kind of accustomed to, but it's up to you.
I guess at the very most I would ask out of interest, how long do you think she's had that attendant of hers?
In all honesty, probably a very long time. A very long time.
As long as they're able to serve them well, I suppose. Kind of one of those now is probably not the time to be worrying and stressing too much about that. We'll address that if it ever came up to be a problem later.
Mm-hmm.
But now the mission and all that.
So you guys will be delving deep into the necropolis, and I'm going to say that the Mortalitasi will notice a sealed door that until then had been shut, but has now been opened. And they will admit that that's very bizarre, and will start leading you guys down that particular chamber that had been sealed. And you guys begin to sense a very bizarre presence in this one particular tomb area.
Mm.
And you can hear the sounds of feet shuffling rapidly.
Are they coming towards us?
Yes, swarming towards you.
Okay.
Of course, Leoden would gently tense up a little bit, but not wanting to give away that he's become aware of it in case the enemies are, in case whatever is shambling towards them is expecting to have the ambush thing. But he would quickly in a hushed tone say to Cedric be on your guard, something is approaching, kind of thing.
Hear it too.
Yes.
Are you guys taking your weapons out?
Leoden is more like hand on hilt of sword, but not drawn yet.
I'll have my halberd out, but not kind of in a ready position. He's just kind of instead of like having it like sheathed or whatever, he's going to be holding it now.
You guys will take out your weapons, and Alexandra is going to, get into a position and starting to growl as you start to see these silhouettes moving towards you. And through the mist, the silhouettes appear to be short, robed figures, but something's off about them, very off. And you realize the reason why they look so short is because these robed figures are missing their heads. And there's 3 of them coming right towards you. And as they come into the torchlight, they are dressed in high priest robes. And again, are like coming towards you in a very threatening looking manner.
Maker's breath. Kind of kick the halberd and at the bottom so it swings into ready position.
And gently, and Leodin's finally like drawing his sword, like, no, this cannot be. This, like kind of like clicking, like, oh my gosh, is this what happened to all of them?
As I said, there's 3 of them. One's going to go after Leodin, the other one to Alexandra, and the last one to Cedric. These are just, again, the bodies of high priest mages or high priest Navarans. You'll be able to incapacitate them easily, so cinematically tell me how you do it.
Okay.
I can start by saying that Alexandra is going to leap towards the closest one. She doesn't seem to be fazed at all by the fact that this thing is headless. And she actually will go for the knees. You'll hear a crack as you start to hear the sounds of bone breaking. She grabs a hold of one of the ankles of that leg as the body topples over, and she sort of starts, shaking the leg off, and you hear the splitting of bone and sinew as she takes off one of the legs, making the particular body unable to move around very well, and has become much less of a threat.
Following suit, Leodin would kind of shoulder check the decrepit being, shambling towards him. After clearing some distance, he would sweep his leg out under the being to have it topple to the ground before stabbing his sword downwards into where he believed would be at the very least its waist to keep it to hopefully sever a spine to keep the legs from moving.
Cedric would use the flat end of his halberd, so not the sharp point, and slam it against the wall. And as it's slammed against the wall, he'll pull the halberd away and take a step forward, and then use his foot to kind of break the kneecap of the zombie thing. So it kind of falls to the ground, and then he'll also pull out a sword and then kind of stab it through the waist to kind of pin it down.
As each of you 3 manage to incapacitate these high priests, you can see misty, dark, misty beings emerge from them. I'm going to say that both Cedric and Leodin will recognize these shades as demons, fairly weaker demons, which the Mortalitasi will then kick into action, and they will start casting spells that will end up banishing the demons from the realm. One of the female Mortalitasi catches her breath and says, "Maker's breath, are they Are they the missing high priests? And one of the other Mortalitases will look down at the bodies, and they will notice, based on their clothing, they will be able to ID them as 3 of the high priests that had gone missing. Upon closer examination, the Mortalitasi will explain that in addition to their missing heads, they also seem to be missing a good amount of their spines as well. Almost as if almost as if their heads were literally yanked, were pulled out of their necks, ripping out their spine in addition to it. I was watching Mortal Kombat 11 the other day. I was watching Mortal Kombat 11 and I was like, okay,
But-
I might have to use this in Navarra.
Yeah.
This may seem to phase most people. The Mortalitasi priest, however, who was, describing this to you, was very clinical. And was like unfazed by the fact. It seems like the victim suffered from, having their head pulled out along with their spine. Interesting.
Oh yeah, that
kind of thing.
that'll happen. No, but immediately, like Leodin would look at this and think this is no longer just an investigation. It's like this is no longer just like a disappearance. We're dealing with murder. We're dealing with full on this is very much more serious than what they expected it to be.
I agree. The manner in which they were dispatched as well is most unsettling. How many went missing? Do we know? Was it just these 3?
No. Within the last month, there was a total of 5. So there's still 2 unaccounted for.
Seeing 3 of them in this state is not a welcome sight, but hopefully the other 2 have held on.
Their bodies twisted against us. Staring, looking into knowing what he would have to do. He would look towards the caverns where the sounds had come from, and turn to Cedric, saying, "We need to go in deeper."
One of the Mortalitasi, the female, she says, "This begs the question, why the heads? And where are the heads now?"
Indeed, that is a good question.
You guys will then delve deeper into the darkness and mystery of the necropolis. So, Theoben, you are visiting the Kingdom of Black King.
Mm-hmm.
So you're down in the Deep Roads.
Just to clarify, so am I remembering right that there were 2 leaders of the Darkspawn, the Black Skin and the Black King and the Architect?
So, okay. The Black King is the true leader of the Darkspawn.
Right. Okay.
The Architect is basically the one who is in charge of awakening. He's like the expert of awakening the Darkspawn, and the Black King is actually leading that group.
So the Black King is pretty much the kind of overseer.
The overseer.
Okay.
Yes. And the Architect is the awakening expert. And I didn't mention this on camera, so I'll mention this now to all the viewers. The alliance between King Kine and the Black King has been very lucrative and very successful, mutually beneficial to both. Not only is the Black King's Darkspawn, awakened Darkspawn, benefiting from the fact that Orzammar is not out to kill them and not to destroy them. They are free to grow in the secluded part of the Deep Roads, and in return, the Darkspawn have been able to provide resources like lyrium or deposits for the dwarves of Orzammar, as well as clearing out the Deep Roads by ridding the feral Darkspawn as much as possible by awakening the feral Darkspawn. thus making the deep roads less dangerous. And because the deep roads are less dangerous, that has allowed Orzammar to expand and retake their taigs. However, as I explained to Hannah, the fact that this alliance even exists in the first place is a deep secret, only to just a small group of King Kind's advisors, because many of the dwarves are very traditionalist, and the idea of aligning with Darkspawn doesn't really go over well. King Kind suspects, and he doesn't want to reveal the secret until he can eventually say, yeah, so I've been lying to you all, and we've been aligning with the Darkspawn, but look at all these taigs that we've managed to come, and all because the Darkspawn has been helping us this whole time. He feels like that would be a better sell than be like, yeah, we can blindly trust these Darkspawn, and they're clearly are not going to eat us. I'm sure they won't try to eat us and backstab us in the end. So that's what's going on there, and Theoben continues to be an ambassador between the Black King's kingdom and Kind's in Orzammar. And so I guess you're just visiting just to see how things are going. And I think you're going to go and visit Razikale. So, because you haven't seen Razikale in a while. Razikale at this moment has become the Black Queen. Now, I should preface this by saying there's nothing necessarily romantic going on between the king and the queen. It's just more of a title. It's not establishing a relationship between the king and the queen. So she's sort of like second command and has been rising up in quite a bit in the world in more ways than one. And I'm going to say that Rosie is going to tag along with you just because Rosie's a lot older now.
How old is she at this point?
So this is 10 years later, so she's like 16-ish.
Oh, okay.
16, 17. So she's adult, basically. Essentially almost an adult. When you first enter into the Black Kingdom's area of the Deep Roads, their society has really advanced quite a bit over the last top 10 years. So it's not as... I don't know if primitive is the politically correct thing to say. It's not as primitive. So they
More advanced?
They're more advanced, you know. They're from their clothing to their tools. Their tools are more refined, you know, their housing is more refined. It's looking not quite to the majesty, of course, of Orzammar, but clearly in the last 10 years you notice that the Awakened Darkspawn have evolved and are continuing to evolve to mirror like surface society, for example.
Have we been providing a lot of those resources, or have they got it from elsewhere?
I'd like to believe that. I'd like to believe so too. But we'll just say that when you enter into this area, Rosie's eyes are just in awe, and she looks around and she says, "Dad, this is... I don't believe what I'm seeing. It's Darkspawn, but they have cities and they're wearing clothes, like real clothes, not like random pieces of armor that they just find lying around.
And they have children, the logistics of which scare the crap out of me. Yeah, it's a bit to take in. It was my first time too.
Several of the Darkspawn, when they see Theoben, he's very well known here. So many of them will give Theoben a nod. Some of the younger ones give him a wave. And they seem to... You've been here enough times that it's par for the course. So... you will eventually make it to the area where the queen, the Black Queen, lives. And Razikale, you'll hear her voice call out as you come into the chamber. She says, "Arrow! Arrow, you've come!"
Razi?
Razi emerges. She says, Our people are trying to grow. We're trying to flourish and thrive. Eventually, it is our dream to eventually go back to the surface and maybe start integrate with society. Integrate with society.
Okay. Raziel, you know what happens to your people when you go to the surface. It doesn't go well.
Yes, that is true. But maybe when they find out what we've become, they will be able to welcome us with open arms, just like you and Pretty and Broody and Kenna did.
But when we first met you, I pointed an arrow at you. Do you remember? You remember
Yes.
distinctly wanting to kill you?
That's why I call you Arrow, she says with
Yes.
a smile.
Now, picture that, but with hundreds of thousands of me's with arrows, all pointed at your children.
She does think about that for a moment, and she says, so you're saying that the surface is not ready?
That's definitely what I'm saying. There is a lot more that needs to be done. You can't walk up to the surface and expect that the world will just adjust to this. Not well liked with surfaces.
Not well liked.
Yes.
Everybody likes me.
Perhaps
What's not
it's
to
more
like about me?
But other than that, very, very bad associations with broodmothers. It is something that the Legion of the Dead and the Grey Wardens have been killing forever, Raziel, and you'll put your children at risk going to the surface with them before they're ready.
Well, how long until they are ready? I told my children that they'd be able to. I've told my children stories about our adventures in this surface, stories about the great things that we got to see, stories about new people that we get to meet. One of my sons, Renatus, she says, looking in the distance, and you can see that there's a young little toddler-ish of a darkspawn running around. He says, one of my sons, Renatus, was very excited to hear about the surface.
Well, it has to happen like how it happened with us. People have to get used to the idea in baby steps. For example, at the moment, nobody other than us know you're here and King Kine. At some point, Kine will be ready to tell the dwarves about your accomplishments and all that you've helped us with. So at least the dwarves will know of your presence. That's a good first step. But not the surface.
She sighs a little bit. What's taking so long? What is His Highness waiting for?
He is waiting until our alliance bears enough fruit that the dwarven people can see how profitable it's been. The tigers that we've reclaimed, so that the dwarves have something to see other than Darkspawn at their worst. If you are a dwarf, you have grown up your entire life hearing about the Darkspawn as monsters that need to be killed, that have taken our tigers, taken our livelihoods, taken our land, taken our loved ones. That is all we hear. And that needs to change, but it needs to change slowly.
It seems so unfair, she says. We have more than proven that we're not monsters.
To us, not to them. Not yet. but the king is working on it.
She will nod. Is the king taking new wives yet? She asks.
Probably. As far as I'm aware, he doesn't have a quota, so maybe.
She said, you said that dwarves have a hard time reproducing so fast. We can try, she says, with a smile. I love Kevin's reaction.
I'll raise it with my lord next I see him.
King has many wives. Why not many babies?
Yes, why not many babies? Other than that, how have things been with literally anything else?
We are having some mild issue with one of the new awakened. One of the new awakened, his name is Darethim. He has been having trouble coping with being awakened. He's been having anger issues. We have somebody you would call therapist working with his anger issues, but they've been hit or miss as of late.
I mean, it's normal for kids to act out and throw tantrums. Rosie nearly caused a cave-in when she was 7. It's probably not that normal, come to think of it, but...
You don't have to tell the queen that, Rosie says.
Well, look, parenthood isn't easy. But if this is just one of the batch of however many, then it's probably temporary, right? Do you want me to speak to them? See what the problem is?
Only if you run into him. We're not sure where he is now. He's somewhere in the deep roads, though.
Oh,
in great anger, he's been spending most of his time, we've discovered, destroying our kin, the non-awakened kin, without giving them a chance to be awakened, which is why he has been known as the Butcher down here in the deep roads.
Rosenkel, I'm going to ask you a question, and your answer is very important. Does he know about the surface?
He is aware of the surface, yes. I don't think he has dared to leave and go up into the surface, because between you and me, I think he is scared of himself. Scared of what he might do when he's up in the surface.
But you don't know where he is.
We have found trails of bodies. Even just yesterday, we have found piles of bodies. So we know he is still down in the deep roads.
Oh. While that may be the case, I think we need to find him. It was never part of the agreement that your kin would venture for any prolonged amount of time outside of this area. And if he does break the surface, that could have very serious ramifications.
I agree, which is why I'm telling you this now. I have not said anything to the Black King, mostly because he is out on an errand at the moment. But if you happen to find another darkspawn that is on a killing spree in the deep roads, ask if its name is Darethim.
I would rather not leave this to chance. I think I must instigate a search for him as soon as possible.
She will nod. Then Razakale will look down towards Rosie, and Rosie's been quiet this whole time and just like studying. And Razakael will say, "So, how about your child? How is she doing? How is she growing? Especially with her powers."
She's good. Rosie, tell me, you're doing good, right? You doing good?
She says, "I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Wonderful.
You could tell Roskale about the migraines. They're fewer and far between. Yes. Let's talk about
Yes,
that.
I've been having headaches, migraines, but they're not as bad as they were before, and you'll continue catching up with Razakael. And cool. So, Kenna, you are nearing the end of your term as a matriarch of the Avar. The Avar people, especially because they're in alliance with His Highness King Maximilian, have managed to thrive, and they have managed to take a hold of much more land than ever before. So the Avaran people have grown quite strong, despite the fact that a good number of you are resurrected members, have resurrect members. But hey, what can you do?
Yeah.
So Connor has come to visit,
Oh.
and it is, it's late at night, and he decided that he really wanted to surprise you with a lovely picnic, an evening picnic. And you guys are having, he basically had brought maybe some rotisserie chicken of some sort, and, a very delicious like salad, and maybe like some strawberry rhubarb pie.
Oh, that's fancy food.
And you guys are chatting a bit, and the night sky is beautiful. And in this part of the woods, like, you can clearly see all the stars twinkling and sparkling. And I think that maybe Connor was able to smuggle some Antivan wine from the stores of the circle. And he sort of gives you a shh, just don't tell the first enchanter, as he like pours some of the wine into a glass.
Secret safe with me, Connor. As always.
So, Kenna, he asks, and Connor has grown quite a bit. You've seen pictures. He's grown up to be quite the handsome young man.
Oh, he has.
Good job, Kenna. Good job. And he says, so Kenna, your term as matriarch is ending soon. Are you sad? Are you happy?
A bit of both, really. I'm pretty sure Sloan will do a good job. He is well liked throughout the community, and he's got good values. He's sort of more focused on internal and revitalizing the land and unifying everyone. Not so much what I was planning to do is trying to, get us more involved in outside politics, but he's what the people want, and he's earned it. But I'm ready for something else.
Do you feel that you were able to accomplish everything you wanted to accomplish? What were the things that you were most proud of during your term that you were able to do?
That we were able to bring peace. There's no more war, no more fighting. We just lived. That was what I was really proud of. That we got a chance to try again, and that we're doing it right this time. It was a good start, I think.
He sort of like takes a hold of your hand, and he squeezes a little bit, and he says, I've been so proud of you through all these years. You've taken your people and just raised them up even after they had fallen. I'm sure your mom would be proud.
I think so. I'm proud of myself. Not trying to be that jokester humble way. I really am. I think I'm ready to move on and next adventure. She does, sort of like squeezing his hand back.
Really? Next adventure? What would that be, do you think? What do you envision that being?
Oh, I'd say there's things like, I mean, I'm still technically a guardian, so I could devote more time to that. Maybe trying to get Esbjörn some cubs. Maybe something between us. I don't know. I was kind of pushed it away because I had so many things to do, but I guess now I'll have more time.
More time is... He sort of swallows a bit. Good. More time is good.
Yes, good. It's good.
We definitely... There's maybe time that needs to be filled in some ways. Any ideas of how we could fill that time?
Oh, like we could see that fancy city of yours more. We've always talked about that pizza place. We could try that sailing thing that Andrea's always talking about. The small things we never really had time for.
I think I know what you mean, he says as he turns towards you. And with that, he snaps his fingers, and then a beautiful magenta-ish sort of flame shoots out like a flare. And when the flame pops out from his hand, almost as if it was signaling something, you start to hear the distance, this hooting sound. It starts with the hooting of one owl, and then a second, and a third, and a fourth, and the fifth, and all of a sudden you hear this melodious song that is coming from all around you of these hooting owls. And then you realize that all of the trees around you start to sway back and forth. Start to sway back and forth to the tune of the owls that are hooting. And Connor takes out his wand and he casts a little bit of a spell, and from the spell he summons this flock isn't the correct word, but he summons a bunch of beautiful fireflies that start to sparkle out, and the whole forest around you just starts dancing to this beautiful tune of the owls. And you can clearly see that one of the trees closest to you is Laquisha.
And I remember.
Yeah, Laquisha. And I have to, whenever I say her name, I have to go like that because that's how you say her name. It's a lot of body language. And Acorn, as well, is perched on the tree right next to her, which is actually Owlet. Mm-hmm. And I think that Connor will take both of your hands and he'll pick you up, stand you up. But then he quickly, as soon as you stand up, he'll quickly kneel down.
What's wrong? Are you sick?
And he says, I just wanted to say something. Kenna, Katrin von Whitevale Hold. So, the last time you and I had a very long talk underneath the stars was probably the first time that we took a very big step from friends to more than friends, and you can feel him shaking. His hands are very shaking and they're cold and clammy. But he pushes through it, he keeps talking through it, and then he says, We have been partners in crime through all of the jokes, all the pranks, through all of the adventures and side quests, a little bit of sneaking around. Sometimes I strayed away from the circle of Magi when I shouldn't have, but that's okay. I always found myself back, and Cedric only found out 50% of the time. What I'm trying to say is, Penna, that I have watched you grow to be the remarkable, beautiful woman that you are, someone that I know that your mother will always be proud of, and Esbjorn and everyone that's important to you has loved you throughout the years, and I just wanted you to know that I have always cherished you, and you have always been an important part of my life since I first met you, and I wanted this day to be perfect, and this night to be perfect, and even though I'm not perfect, you I know have always been perfect for me, and now that you are moving on from one adventure of matriarch of being responsible for a whole vast civilization of people, I was wondering if you would be willing to be in charge of at least one person for a change, maybe more later on the line. I wanted to know, and with that, all of the fireflies start to form letters, glowing letterings, and it spells out, Kenna, will you marry me? Like in letterings.
Oh. 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 You're... oh. Oh, typically this isn't really how it works. But I like this one better.
Are you supposed to bash me over the head and take me into your cave or something? Is that how it normally works?
Hey, come on now. That's rude. That's not how it's done. No, you're technically supposed to do that to me.
Oh.
I mean, technically you're supposed to sneak past the entire hold and kidnap me and take me to yours, but you don't really. Or too far.
Okay, so maybe tonight wasn't as perfect.
No, wait. I was perfect. Yes. I will be with you.
He will stand up and he will embrace you, and he will show you. So I don't know if it's custom for Avar to give rings. Is it a ring?
No.
Like, what is the custom?
It'd probably be like something that they take time to carve, something that they take time to create and give as like a token of like, I spent all this time and this is what I'm giving you. This is my presentation of my love to you, sort of.
Okay.
I imagine them having some sort of token.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll say that because actually we know from the past that he's very good at carving.
Yes, he is.
So if Connor actually presents you with this gorgeous looking amulet made from iron bark, ironwood, beautiful, gorgeous. It sort of like glints in the starlight, and it is in the shape of a bear, but the bear's body is like cuddling, cuddling this heart. It's like this bear is like cuddling this heart in it, and on the heart is like the Aether symbol is on it as well, and engraved on the back is basically like an etching in Connor's handwriting, which Connor actually has beautiful handwriting.
Of course.
Of both of your names, that's also surrounded by the coat of arms of Redcliffe, which is where he was born. He was born in Redcliffe. So there's a piece of him on the back as well, and the piece of you is on the front. So
Oh, Connor, this is perfect. Then she sort of like just like jumps on him.
you'll jump on them with a deep embrace, and the entire forest cheers.
Yeah.
All of the trees and the owls cheer as you share a very passionate, warm kiss. Kiss the girl. Tra la 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 la. Kiss the girl. Okay.